So, Tap, sorry. I first have to say I'm sorry that I nearly stole that interview for you. It was just a reflex, and then I put my hand out, and there was just this oblique, strange white hand, just like...
On camera.
I know, it was embarrassing. I'm so sorry.
Well, listen,
I nearly ruined the show.
We gave the people something they've probably never seen before.
I know, but it was so unprofessional, you know? I'm sorry. Okay, well, this is a story that both of us are quite intrigued by,
Yes,
right? Okay, so we both
definitely.
wanted to do this interview, so we're going to, but I got to do it. Well, many of us watched the slightly disturbing yet highly entertaining docu-series about America's big cat zoo owner dubbed the Tiger King. Well, back home over in Boksburg, it seems a tiger queen is making her own headlines. Annalene Kruger and her family are reportedly housing 2 tigers as pets in a residential area. And while this may not be against the law, concerns have been raised about the wild cats being in eyeshot of a children's creche. So what is South Africa's legislation on keeping wild animals as pets and near public spaces? To answer this, we're joined by the director of Paws SA, Fiona Miles. Fiona, thank you so much for joining us. Let's clear up one of the main concerns. Is it legal to house an exotic wild animal in a residential area in South Africa?
Unfortunately, yes, it is. Specifically with big cats, there's not enough protection for them in South Africa. And as such, specifically in Gauteng, because tigers are not indigenous, they are afforded even less protection. So permits are required to transport these animals across internal borders in the country, but unfortunately it is possible to keep them. And this is specifically what we're really sort of trying to raise awareness about is that this is not normal for these animals. This is not a natural habitat or natural environment for these animals to be living in. They belong in the wild. They are wild animals. They have natural instincts, and they do pose a danger to people, obviously, and of course the danger to themselves, because this is not the way that they should be living.
You know, Fiona, Annalene has suggested that we speak to her lawyer about the issue, but one could argue that these big cats were probably raised in domestic circumstances, not in the wild, and therefore couldn't fend for themselves in anywhere else but a zoo, I suppose.
And I think that's, I mean, whilst these two animals are, as we're seeing now, are in particular are under scrutiny, let's say, or this particular case is under scrutiny, I think if we look at the whole situation in South Africa, where there's more than 12,000 lions in captivity, as well as an estimated 1,500 tigers in captivity, all being born and bred specifically for either entertainment or for more intensive breeding, for interaction, for these kind of things, and potentially also for the international, obviously, wildlife trade. We have to do something about this. This is not normal. And so, yes, these 2 animals in particular, we might say that about them, but if we look at the overall circumstances, South Africa actually has to address this and really put laws in place to prevent this from happening in future.
Fiona, we're seeing photographs on our screen of these big cats being loved on the bed and getting bathed and seemingly being treated like little pussycats. But the truth is that they are wild animals and they're next to a creche.
Exactly. And you know, wild animals obviously have instinct, and you know, we've spoken to many people. We operate a big cat sanctuary just outside of Bethlehem in the Free State called Lions Rock, and there we've rescued animals from around the world that have been in terrible conditions, really shocking conditions, giving them the best possible care. And what we have found, of course, is that if you crouch down, if you make sudden movements and so on, that instinct kicks in. They're very, very powerful. And you know, safety needs to come first, safety for the animals as well as the people in the neighborhood, in the area, needs to be of highest priority. So, you know, we cannot say that these particular animals are not well cared for, they look healthy, etc. But at the end of the day, this is not where they belong. And so this is why we're really encouraging the Department of Environment to act faster in particular for the legislation and the draft policy paper that is out currently for public comment about captive breeding and keeping, and to halt and reverse the domestication of these wild animals.
I must say I'm gobsmacked that there are no bylaws or proper laws in place in the keeping of exotic pets. I watched the American version and was pretty taken aback too at their situations. Would you be willing to take these 2 tigers into your sanctuary?
Yes, of course, we would be willing to support any animal, but ideally, what we need is the laws in place to prevent this from happening again and again, because, you know, at the end of the day, what will prevent the owners necessarily from taking on additional animals? So at the end of the day, it's really important that the laws are put in place to stop this domestication of big cats. And yes, of course, sanctuaries play a critical role in taking animals that can no longer, be housed in certain facilities. But yeah, what would stop the perpetuation of this going forward? So we really need to make sure that that we're all calling for an end to the captive breeding of big cats in South Africa, so that we can see an end to this. Because it might be a personal gratification, it might be for show or whatever the case may be, but this is really not in the best interests of the animals, of course, as well as the people in their neighborhood.
All right, Director of Paws there, Fiona Miles, thank you for joining us. And we have reached out to both Annelien Kruger and her lawyers.